But what do I know? I didn't make the Princess Diaries.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Hey guys, it's Briar, and let's chat about it. So exactly 15 years ago today, as of the time that I am recording this, one of the most iconic movie was released. And that is, of course, the movie Valentine's Day, which I am hopefully posting this video on Valentine's Day as a little Valentine's Day treaty from me to you, the Chattinators, because yeah, it's true, I did have a little bit of fun making my He's Just Not That Into You video, and so I thought, why not, for this silly little holiday, give you a silly little video. Well, it might be a long video, but it's silly and little in energy, about the iconic 2010s movie that was Valentine's Day. So if you guys simply want to hang out and chat about this iconic movie, yeah, stick around because we're going to get into it. See, it's all about the details for me because I am wearing my little cherub Valentine t-shirt. Yes, it's true. Pink makeup for you, the people, the Chattinators, and for this auspicious day. Now, before we can even get into the movie of it all, I feel like context is required for this movie because the music, the composer, the director, it's all very iconic and very 2010 coded, and so it must simply be acknowledged before we get into the movie. When I was doing my research about this movie, this single sentence truly to me encompasses the energy of this movie, and that is thus. The film received negative reviews but was a box office success. And honestly, a truer statement could not have been stated. That was a mint of states, if I ever saw one. Because I feel like this movie has a special Jenny say what, an essence to it, and yet when you describe it and when we talk through the movie, objectively it's not very good, but as a viewer, as a consumer of this media, it's an enjoyable and fun time. When I think about this movie, He's Just Not That Into You, New Year's Eve, it feels like desperate for Love Actually's nachos. It feels like they're trying to chase the high that Love Actually had, but for different holidays. The way that we watch Love Actually at Christmas, I feel like these movies, they were trying to recreate that for Valentine's Day and for New Year's Eve. And whilst I couldn't confirm that this movie was inspired by Valentine's Day, interestingly enough, the same squad, if you will, that made this movie also made New Year's Eve, and also a movie I never even heard of, Mother's Day. So I don't know if we want to dive into the universe that this squad created around different days. But if you guys like this video, maybe I will. It'll be a long game though, because New Year's Eve is kind of far away. So as an easily distracted girly, I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole to find out who was behind this masterpiece. Who was behind this movie that had literally every celebrity that I could name in 2010. This name should mean something to you, but if it doesn't, it will once I explain, because the director of this movie is Gary Marshall, and if you don't know the name, you will know his filmography, because have you heard of silly little movies such as Pretty Woman, The Princess Diaries, The Princess Diaries 2, A Royal Engagement? Because those are Gary Marshall's nachos. Those are his iconic legendary moments in cinema history, and we simply, as the Chattinators, must respect excellence when we hear about it. Now, sadly, I think it was around 10 years ago, Gary did pass away, and it's just actually really lovely to see people like Julia Roberts, Anne Hathaway, two people in this movie, speak so fondly and kindly of him as a director, as he was really the director of their big breakout movies, and the way that they talked about him in Remembrance and even in reunion interviews was just really lovely and sweet. And I'm pretty sure it was Anne Hathaway who said he was just really passionate about telling women's stories as a true story, not as a made up, not as a man's version, but listening and telling a really good story. And good stories we got. The Princess Diaries, The Pretty Woman, need I say more? And I feel like Gary is whomst we have to thank for this collaboration of not only the cast, but also the composer and the people that he worked with. Because as you look throughout his filmography, you will see that he worked with a lot of the same people throughout his life. And I feel like that is just really a homage, I believe that's how you say that word, to him as a director. Because enter stage my... Does stage left mean your left or my left? Why do they make it confusing? I don't know. But enter stage whomst ever, John Debney, because he worked on the music and oomph did John serve. John showed up to work every day and worked for every dollar he got, and I assume it was a lot of dollars, because he also worked on a lot of films with Mr. Gary, and his music and composery is also very iconic as well. John worked for Disney a lot, so I don't know if you guys have heard of a little silly film called The Emperor's New Groove. He also worked on The Princess Diaries and the Hannah Montana movie. It's the climb of it all. Honestly, he's probably your favorite composer that you've never heard of, or at least he is mine. May I just add to his list, to his resume, The Greatest Showman? Whoa! Boom! So now that we've laid down the groundwork for who the slay icon queens are behind this movie, it seems only right to get into the movie of it all. And well, like I said, this movie is definitely grasping for Love Actually's nachos, so you will need to keep up, and I will do as many visual accompaniments as I can so that we can keep up, but it takes over half an hour to meet all of the besties, the squad, the gang, the gag, in this story on Valentine's Day. So keep up, sheeple, it will be on the test. But I think, honestly, without further ado, we simply shall just get into the movie of it all. And the movie starts with radio DJ Romeo Midnight setting the scene. The song, Hey, I'll Be Gone Today. That song is playing, and Romeo Midnight is setting the scene. He's laying down the groundwork like clockwork, and he's letting us, the people, the audience, know that it is Valentine's Day in LA, in the city of angels, no less. And this movie takes place within one day. Even if I was one of these characters, I feel like it would be a lot going on for one day. It's a booked and busy day. Valentine's Day 2010 in Los Angeles. I will give Romeo Midnight his flowers because the person that does the voiceover for him is Paul Williams, and he is once again an icon and legend in the music and composition scene in the woods of Holly. Heard of Bugsy Malone? Heard of the band The Carpenters? Yeah, that's what's on his resume. However, do I think Romeo Midnight works as a narrator? The jury's out on it because he's not there often enough to guide the story along, and spoiler alert, we never actually see him. So he's not one of the characters. He just kind of pops up every now and again to be like, hey, city of angels, like, hey, besties, here's a love song. I feel like it would have been better if he was an actual character as well as the narrator, but what do I know? I didn't make The Princess Diaries. So the first couple that we meet is Ashton Kutcher, aka Reed, and Jessica Alba. Round of applause for Jessica Alba. You know, sometimes you just have to applaud a beautiful woman for existing. Sorry. And Jessica's character's name is Morley, which doesn't suit her in the slightest. And don't worry, we will have lots of qualms and questions about the character names throughout this movie, but we're just getting started. So we've heard from Romeo Midnight. We are now at Reed and Morley's apartment, and Reed is waking up and he pulls out what? An engagement ring. On Valentine's Day? Reed, you little romantic. And he goes around to Morley's side of the bed, picks her BlackBerry out of her phone. The 2010s of it all, so iconic, and he says a bunch of stuff, blah 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 blah, but the one thing that I did hear him say is that if you're with a woman that's too good for you, marry her. And I think we can all agree that objectively Jessica Alba is too good for Ashton Kutcher. And now, interestingly enough, Morley doesn't say yes, she says really.
Really?
Which I guess if you rearranged the letters in really and then threw them all out except for the E and then got a Y and an S, you would get yes. You just got a Da Vinci coder. You just got to crunch the numbers. Somewhere there's a yes in there, surely. Reed takes it as a yes. He's not even really listening. He starts the day happy as a clam. Woohoo. He gets to be a sappy little sapling all day long because it's Valentine's Day, and everyone will just think it's because of the day. Reed then leaves his house to meet up with his bestie and co-worker Alfonso, played by George Lopez, and he's kind of a little bit shook. He's a little bit aghast that Morley said yes. She said yes? She said yes. He's like, you know me. He tries to brush it off like pessimist by nature. Reed doesn't really stick on it too long, and they get into their van, which reveals to us that Alfonso and Reed work at a flower shop. How iconic and fun for Valentine's Day. And next we meet Calvin, who is KVL. A bunch of letters smushed together. He's a news reporter for them, but he's the sports reporter number 2. He was not number 1. He was number 2. And so because of that, Calvin's being put onto the streets. He is doing on the street interviews, asking people about love, asking people about Valentine's Day. And this is horrifying to Calvin, aka Jamie Foxx, because he hates Valentine's Day. Ugh, yuck. Oh, how could you ask this of him? He is a sports reporter. Valentine's Day is not a sport, and he is not impressed, but he has to lump it, and he has to go out onto the streets and interview people all about love. And this is important because he truly does become an invisible string that ties plots of this movie together. So the first invisible string is that Calvin goes to the LA flower market to find out, to get the scoop about the roses situation. How many roses are being sold? What is the deal with the roses? And he finds Simon Pham, F-H-A-M, at the flower market, and he goes to interview him. But can you believe it? He doesn't understand his accent. So Reed steps in. This is important. Listen up, people. And translate for Simon Pham and says 110 million roses are sold on Valentine's Day in the US as of 2010, and 60% of them are grown in California. Can you believe the statistics of it all? This movie is teaching. We are learning from this movie. This is not garbage. This is education. That is the first invisible string, and from this interview, Reed is able to shout out his florist shop, Sienna. Keep it in the mind, it's very important. Now, as I introduce the next person, I'm going to try not to give away how I really feel about them. Next, we have Patrick Dempsey's Dr. Harrison Copeland. Can you believe it? This man is a heart surgeon. Gag. Boo. Boo, tomato, tomato. I don't like it. I don't like it. What? I'm being very neutral. And he has just started a flourishing relationship with whomst, I hear you asking? Only the one and only stunning, beautiful and iconic Jennifer Garner of 13 going on 30 fame. Or I believe some countries know it as Suddenly 30. Either slay. Can you believe it? Dr. Copeland can't spend Valentine's Day with Jennifer Garner, whomst character's name is Julia Fitzpatrick to be precise, because he has to go and surgery a heart in San Francisco. Oh, the drama of it all. And he's like, I thought you said that you had plans. And she's like, yeah, I have a crazy hot friend named Cara, and she has a I hate Valentine's Day party every year, but it's a bit of a womp womp because, you know, it's in the name. It's a bit of a downer. My friend is hot, but she's also kind of crazy. Okay, keep that in mind. Sure, that will also be important. We cannot ever snooze when watching this movie because everything is a domino that is cascading in a line. Okay? What if I told you that Gary Marshall was a mastermind? So what we get from this is that Dr. Copeland, very, very suave, very, ooh, I fix hearts. I'm the best. Like, they need me to fix this heart. and Julia Fitzpatrick is very much smitten. Okay, next we have Anne Hathaway as Liz, no last name. Anne Hathaway of the Princess Diaries fame, no less, of working with Gary Marshall across many a movie, no less. And she, look, I don't, hate is a strong word, but I really don't know how to feel about this storyline, because she has just started a relationship with Jason, who is played by Topher, which from this movie is how I learned that people with their full chest go by the name Topher as a nickname for Christopher. You're telling me that little kid, hi, my name is Topher.
My name's Topher.
That's where that came from? I'm like literally so devastated. I can't even put it into words beyond the words that I've just put it into. I was shocked. Jaw on the floor. What do you mean? People use Topher as a nickname for Christopher when Chris exists. Oh God, it hurts. Anyway, Topher, aka Jason, and Liz have just started a hot and sexy relationship. They work together and they've just taken it to the next level. It was very spicy. They have a lot of chemistry. I don't really feel it when watching it, but they tell us about the chemistry. It's science class over here. There's a lot of chemistry. However, Anne Hathaway, aka Liz's phone, starts making the most diabolical ringtone sound. It's like, sorry, I gotta take this. And she rushes out of Jason's apartment. And then she rides her little moped like a couple meters away to answer the call. And I hope that you guys are sitting down, because if you have not seen this movie, this is gonna be shocking. Anne Hathaway's character, to make extra dollar bills, which, hey, I'm not here to hate a hustle. However, her character, to make extra money, does phone zigs. But it's not just that she does phone zigs. It's that she does it in very strange different accents. She has this really strange Russian accent that she does, as well as like a cowgirl, and none of them are good. And I just know the kind of acting that Anne Hathaway can give. I watched Les Mis. I consumed The Princess Diaries 1 and 2. To see her doing these really bizarre accents, yes, it did give me some pause. And I don't really want to talk about this part of her story further, so we won't. Next! Now, if you thought one icon from the Princess Diaries cast was enough, well, I've got another. Because do you guys remember Joe? As in Joe and the Queen? Joe, the bodyguard Joe from Princess Diaries? He's in this movie and he plays lovable Grandpa Edgar, and he is married to Estelle. They've been together a long time and they are #couple goals. And they did the cutesy little, we said we wouldn't get anything for each other for Valentine's Day, but they both got each other a really thoughtful, sentimental present. Don't worry, I don't play these games. My boyfriend knows I expect something for Valentine's Day. It doesn't have to be much. It can be a box of chocolates for all I care, but I do expect something. Gimme. And from you guys, from the besties, from the chattinators, a like and a subscribe would be all. That's all I want from you guys, and for you to enjoy the video. My gift to you is this video. Your gift to me is a like and subscribe. Why don't you thumbs down? No thumbs down, thumbs up, subscribe. Now that we're on the same page, Edgar and Estelle are looking after their grandson. They're just being slay icon queens, loving each other, and they're looking after their grandson, Edison. I don't know either. Now, this movie has a real way of telling a story, in the sense that it doesn't tell one person's story and then goes to the next person. Like, it will have a scene and it will split that scene in half with another scene. So it's like, we'll see Julia and Dr. Copeland, and then we'll see Edgar, and then we'll see Julia leaving Dr. Copeland's apartment. Like, it's a lot for my little brain to take in. So I hope that I'm explaining it somewhat sensibly. And if I'm not, raggy. We now cut to Julia being kind of in love but also sad, leaving Dr. Copeland's apartment, and then who enters the screen? None other than the icon, the legend, Taylor Swift, with her giant bear. And for some reason her character's name is Felicia. Bar Felicia, like, okay, the 2010s of it all. I don't remember the giant bear that she had being so creepy looking. Upon rewatching, twice might I add, it's a creepy bear. Like the faces, it's like emo and kind of scary to look at. So we have the iconic elevator scene where Felicia explains to Julia that, her boyfriend texts her, check outside, and he's not outside, but you know what it is? The bear.
But there's like this giant white bear.
Yeah, the bears.
So she takes the bear to school. Gotta show all the peers. And honestly, Taylor just looks so cute in this movie. And like I said, it takes us a long time to meet all of our main character besties, so we're not even close to meeting them all. I hope that you are using this big boy to remember and keep up, because you still got a few people to meet, you still got a few stories to hear about. But before we meet some more people, we find out some of the interweavings of the relationships, because it would be crazy if these were all just separate stories that didn't intertwine. So we find out that Reed and Julia are besties, and Julia goes to the flower shop because she is a little bit worried. She knew about Reed's plan to propose. She's like Alfonso. She's not sure that it's gonna go well. She's like, I'm not sure. She arrives and she's like, oh, I got your message. Is everything all right? And he's like, she said yes. Roll the tape, Reed.
Really?
Why major in the minors, am I right, folks? So Reed tells her she said yes. I didn't get it. Congratulations. And one thing I forgot to tell you about when we met Dr. Copeland and Julia, because I was distracted by rage, is that on the TV was Reed talking to Calvin on the news about his flower shop. So that seed was planted in Dr. Copeland's mind, which is important. So I should have told you that before, but I'm telling you now, okay? Nobody's perfect. I gotta work it again and again to right. So because Reed is unfortunately in his delusional romantic brain, he's like, oh my gosh, you should just fly to San Francisco and surprise your amazing boyfriend. What could go wrong? And she's like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Maybe I will. And so she leaves with a new sense of purpose. And so she calls Dr. Copeland and he's like, so sorry, babe. I don't know why I made him Australian. Patrick Dempsey is not Australian. I think in my mind for a second, I thought he was Hugh Jackman. He was like, so sorry. I can't talk right now. I'm actually just pulling up to the airport. But us, the viewer, see, she's on the phone. She only has audio, but us as a viewer, we have visuals. And we see him in his fancy little car pulling up to not an airport, but a mansion in LA. That's suspicious. That's weird. You will now immediately understand my very well hidden rage was because Dr. Copeland slips back on his wedding ring. He is not separated or divorced like he told Julia. He is still capital M married to his wife and they have a daughter. And so he's like, hey honey, I'm home. Sorry I stayed at the condo because surgery went late. This man using his surgeries to get whatever he wants and make up any excuses. Another interesting trait that really only comes up twice is that he likes to juggle things. So he comes back and he picks up some fruit from the fruit bowl and starts juggling it. And then a very strange piece of dialogue is said by his wife. Doesn't Daddy juggle well?
She knows.
I beg your finest pardon? You can't tell me this wife doesn't know. Hindsight is 2025. I could see what I didn't see then is that woman knows. That woman knows that this is Patrick Dog Dempsey and she just doesn't want to rock the boat. Surely, right? She knows. I know she knows. We simply do not have time to process this because now we're on a plane, on a long haul flight. Don't think we ever get told from where, but we are flying into LA and we are introduced to Captain Kate, played by Julia Roberts of Pretty Woman fame. The crowd goes wild. And whom's shoulder is she sleeping on? Bradley Cooper. And his name is Wilson Wilson. I feel like they just threw names at a wall. It was just like the spaghetti method. Just like, that's a name. Sure. It's kind of like giving book names. You know how book names are always almost normal names, but a little bit silly and goofy? Some of these names are a little bit silly and goofy because Julia Roberts' full name is Captain Kate Hazeltine. And because Kate fell asleep on Holden or Wilson's shoulder, they get to a chatting. And he finds out from her that she is flying back to LA for one night only, one show only, after being away for 11 months on active duty. He is like, oh my gosh, the romance of it all. And she's like, sure, believe what you want to, I guess. I will say their scenes throughout this movie are pretty short, and I feel like we wanted to have Bradley Cooper and Julia Roberts in the movie. I wish they had more screen time, to be honest, because it's very cute, very wholesome. They're very fun together. Anyway, moving on. Morley shows up to Reed's work. Everyone's showing up to Reed's work. Lots happens at the florist shop. So Morley shows up because Reed forgot his wallet, that silly goose. And he notices as she goes to hand his wallet, what's not on her hand? The engagement ring. Raggy. You think that you're forgetting something? And she was like, oh, look, how do I put this? Can we just keep it a secret for today? Because, like, can you imagine? I'd have to go into work and then people would ask me questions about it. Like, people would say congratulations. And that's just, you know. And honestly, for Jessica Alba, I probably too would keep it a secret because... sure, but it's not looking good, bruv, is it? Sorry, Reed, but the writing is on everything. Everyone's face, everyone's reaction. This man is slow on the uptake. But anyway, moving on. Do we remember Edgar? He's driving his cutesy little grandson Edison to school, but they have to stop because they too saw Reed on the TV talking to Calvin. And Edison, he's giving that kid from Love Actually. He is the most desperate for the nachos. He is also a kid in love, and he's talking about, like, does it mean that you're in love when your heart goes ba-boom, ba-boom? And I was just like, are they allowed to do this kind of a ripoff? But I'll let it slide. You know, who am I to judge? And we get a little bit of backstory about how in love Edgar is with Estelle. I know, Edgar, Estelle, Edison, it's a lot. He says a very cute line where he's talking to Edison about how he saw a pretty girl and it made his heart go ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom too. Edison's a bit of a smarticle particle because he's like, Grandma was the pretty girl? And he's like, Grandma is the pretty girl. Swoon. And then he says, what's Moore Park spelt backwards? Crap room. Don't say that at school. Okay, sure. Edison is on a mission. He needs to buy a dozen roses from Reed to get them delivered to school at recess, preferably. As we saw, Edison is a smart kid. He's quick on the uptake. Yet for some reason, he cannot read the sign that says $55 per bunch of a dozen red roses. Inflation, am I right, kids? But he totally shortchanges Reed by, I don't even know how much. He gives him like $13. I know this kid knows that sign said 55. But anyway, Reed does it because he's in love. It's Valentine's Day. Blah, whatever. We cross over to Topher, who is now at work talking with the wise colleagues that he has, aka other men. He's like, oh my gosh, is it Valentine's Day? No wonder why Liz freaked out and left my apartment like that in the morning. That wasn't why, but you were never going to guess the reason she freaked out and left your apartment. So I don't really blame him for not ever guessing. He's kind of like freaking out. He's like, we've only been going out 2 weeks. What do you do when you've only been going out 2 weeks? Everything will be booked. Like, it's a dilemma. And like I said earlier, him and Liz work in the same building. And this is where we see Liz does some sort of desk job. You know, it's kind of giving Devil Wears Prada, but kind of could never. But iconically enough, her boss in this movie is Queen Latifah, who I didn't even write down her name. I just wrote down Queen. So we will be referring to Queen Latifah as Queen for the rest of this video. And we also find out the fact that she is taking a lot of her side hustle calls at work. She is working smarter, not harder. So am I hating the player, or am I hating the game, or am I just avoiding the fact that she is a bone? But what we do find out is that Queen, our Queen, Liz's queen, is very stressed because she has a client in crisis.
A client in crisis.
That sounds challenging.
Whomst is that client, I hear you asking? None other than Sean Jackson, played by Eric Dane. And Sean Jackson is a 35-year-old quarterback. Sean Jackson also had a really bad game. He's in crisis because of it, because everyone's like, will he retire? Oh my God, 35 old. You know, they're throwing things around. And he's like, why are these people out to get me and be a hater? Everybody makes mistakes and everybody has those days. But also, his publicist is crazy hot Cara of Julia Fitzpatrick. Patrick best friend Cara, who is played by Jessica Biel. Unfortunately for Cara, she is not thriving on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is her flop day. She has one flop day a year, and that is Valentine's Day. She is eating food like crazy. She is on the treadmill. She can't stop the treadmill. She's a hot mess, and she is just not in the headspace for this PR crisis that Sean Jackson is facing. So we're getting the spider web of it all, right? We have Sean Jackson, the NFL player, whose manager is Queen, but publicist is Cara, and Cara is besties with Julia, and Julia is dating Dr. Copeland, and Dr. Copeland is married. Unfortunately, Cara is in her flop day era, and worst of all, nobody, not a single body, has RSVP'd to her hateritis party of Valentine's Day. She has a whole ass website, and it has a little animation, and it reveals that 0 RSVPs. The flopification of it all. The only thing worse than having a hateritis Valentine's Day party on Valentine's Day is if nobody comes. Cara is in her flop era, and then she also has to deal with this PR crisis that Sean Jackson is going through. If you can believe it, after 30 minutes of movie, so it takes over a quarter of the movie to meet all of the besties. And the last of the squad is Emma Roberts' Grace, and I can't remember the actor that plays her boyfriend, Alex. Their big storyline is that they are about to finish high school. Well, high school finishes in a few months if it's February 14th. They're both 18, and they have decided that they are going to have sex at lunchtime. Very romantic, I know. I don't particularly like this storyline. I just prefer other storylines, I guess. But the important thing to note is that it's a big show. We've got it planned because Grace's mum is going to be out, so they're going to go to Grace's house and have a show, I guess. I don't know. But these guys are besties with Taylor Swift and Taylor Lautner, aka Felicia and Willie, whomst are waiting. We're gonna wait. Which makes it more funny because Virgin Taylor and Taylor in the movie are giving Alex and Grace advice.
What are you gonna eat first? Maybe some Gatorade. Do push-ups.
I'll get you a sandwich for when you come back.
What do they know? Literally bunch of virgins. But anyway, we move on to Queen, Sean, and Cara having a big PR crisis meeting. Blah, blah, blah. Sports is what I hear. Sean's like, I just feel like I want more out of life. And so Cara's like, maybe we should think about it. And it just felt like one of those meetings that you have. We've all been in one of those meetings. No one resolves anything. And it's like, I think we just need to think about it more and talk about it more. And it's just like, why was this a meeting if we weren't going to decide anything? I hate it here. So Queen is very sick of Cara and Sean's shh. So she's like, we don't have time to think about it. You need to get your A into G and make a decision. We have a cute little Captain Kate and Wilson interlude where they are playing a little silly game on the plane, and they're kind of just sharing little tidbits about themselves while also not revealing anything at all. It's saying a lot without saying anything, which is kind of what I'm known to do. Even though these scenes are very short, I mention it, I give them a shout out because they're being unproblematic queens. We then cut to Julia, who is now in Miss Fitzpatrick mode as a elementary school teacher, where we get the most out-of-pocket line in this whole movie because she is talking about Valentine's Day with her students, and she is giving them a little bit of a history lesson. She's like, do you guys want to know the history about this auspicious day? And a crazy little kid called Franklin with a beanie puts up his hand. He's like, don't worry folks, I got this one. And then he says, Valentine's Day was a massacre in Chicago where they shot everybody and put a curse on the Chicago Cubs. Don't kids just say the darndest things? Miss Fitzpatrick obviously is like, different Valentine's Day. Dull but nice try. And now we unfortunately must move on to a terrible scene. A scene that the movie has been building us up to, because you see Dr. Copeland, the doofus that he was, went to Reed's florist shop because I guess either he doesn't listen to Julia yappa about her best friend Reed, who owns a flower shop. Like, how has that never came up? Like, how did he not know that that was her bestie? Man can fix a heart, but he's not smart enough to know that he went to his girlfriend's best friend's flower shop to order flowers for not just Julia, but also his wife. He's like, I'm so sorry to do this, but I have surgery in an hour, so can I cut the line? No. But Reed lets him. So he's like, I have to order 2 bunches of flowers for my special ladies. Look, even though Reed is slow on the uptake, when he sees Julia Fitzpatrick's name, even he figures it out and he's like, oh my goodness, sweet giblets. That man is still full-blown married and Julia is his affair partner. Now Reed has been given this diabolical piece of information, also has to deliver flowers to Julia and Dr. Copeland's wife. The audacity of it all. Now I'm going to say this briefly and quickly because like I said, I don't particularly care about this storyline, but basically Alex and Grace's plan to have things does not go to plan because whilst Alex is preparing Grace's room and getting naked, Grace's mum comes home and catches him in her room naked. Chaos ensues. He runs out onto the street naked. We all laugh because cringy, embarrassing stuff. Liz is working her special side hustle job at work when Jason is coming up to her desk to talk about Valentine's Day. And so she has to quickly wrap up her call before she gets caught. Just in the nick of time, she doesn't. And he's like, do you want to go out to dinner with me? And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, of course I would. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was Valentine's Day. Like, I totally get why you freaked out. And she's like, yeah, that's totally why I freaked out. Yeah, let's go to dinner. So they are now going to dinner. Hooray, great, cool. We next catch up with Sean Jackson, who's listening to people yappa run their mouths about him on the radio in his car. And someone says something so diabolical that he ends up rear-ending Alfonso in the florist truck. Oh my gosh, the calamity of it all. The chaos that this is going to cause. It's Valentine's Day and now we have a damaged florist van. The optics are not looking good. Obviously, when Alfonso realizes that it's the Sean Jackson that rear-ended him, he asks for his autograph. The one thing that this movie seems to try to do is have all of these characters randomly happen upon each other and have those people impart wisdom on each other to give them the clarity to know what to do. So for Sean with his PR crisis, him running into Alfonso and them talking about how people really wanting flowers delivered as like a true act of love is when it's public and when people can see it.
Love doesn't exist unless you acknowledge it in front of other people.
This gives Sean clarity to know what to do. We don't know what that is yet, but thank you so much, Alfonso. I mean, your van got destroyed, but Sean now knows what to do, so you gotta make lemonade out of being rear-ended, I guess. So now Reed has to deliver Dr. Copeland's flowers to his bestie, Julia, which I still can't get over the fact that Dr. Copeland, does he just like not listen? Does he just think that like Julia, blah, 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 blah? Throughout this movie, it is really solidified that Julia and Reed are besties. Cara may be her girl bestie, but Reed is her bestie. So the fact that he had no idea, I feel like this man doesn't listen to her, which no surprises there. Any slay, Reed has to deliver the flowers and he's like, hey bestie, can we just step outside for a chat? No big deal. And kind of diabolical to tell someone in the middle of the school day, but I get it. And so she's like, Edison, you're in charge, because of course. And so they step out and of course Reed is unable to tell her. There's a series of unfortunate events. Oh, of course, for the plot and the storyline, he couldn't just be able to tell her at school. So he tries to tell her, but instead she tells him that she booked a flight to San Francisco. This is all your fault, Reed. You have no one to blame but yourself. Because of all this chaos, he is unable to tell her, and Julia has to rush back to her classroom because she left children unattended. Of course they're going to misbehave. So it's not looking good. It went from worse to worse. And unfortunately, it's just going to go to worstest because Womp Womp Reed decides, oh, I'm going to drop off a cute little present for Morley because I love her. Well, guess what he walks in on? It's a PR disaster because Morley is packing her bags, There's the door, bitch. She is leaving. She is get out, leaving right now because it's the end of her and Reed. She realized that when she was completely and utterly unexcited at the thought of getting married to him, that it was probably a sign that they shouldn't get married and she should in fact leave him. Worst of all, to add salt to the wound, their dog chooses Morley over Reed, which I mean... fair enough. It went downhill fast for Reed. He went from having the best day ever to the most wompiest of womp days on record. And Alfonso, because I don't know why, I guess it's a character quirk, he is fishing whilst waiting for Reed to drop off a present. And without Reed even having to say anything, Alfonso knows. Why, I hear you asking? He had an inkling that it wasn't right, that Morley and Reed were not meant to be together, and Reed understandably is very upset about this. He's like, you had an inkling and you didn't tell me. You're supposed to tell your bestie about an inkling. And then he's like, wait a minute. If 2 plus 2 is 4 and 5 plus 5 is 10, I'm going to have to tell Julia about Dr. Copeland, aren't I? Alfonso's like... yeah. They split up. Alfonso goes to deliver the rest of the flowers, and Reed, in the Love Actually nachos of it all, goes to chase after Julia at the airport to stop her from flying to San Francisco. And when I say Love Actually nachos, I truly mean it, because Reed literally runs through the security to get to Julia's gate. We've got a code Foxtrot. And of course, the timing of it all, he catches her right as she's about to board. The drama at scale, am I right, folks? And she doesn't believe him. Womp, womp. These guys are meant to be besties. And she's like, but did he say he was married? Like, what if he's just sending her flowers to be nice because he's a heart doctor? And he's like, look, do you think me and Morley are meant to be together? And she's like, why would you ask me such a question? And he's like, because she left me today, and it seems like everyone else in the room knew that we weren't meant to be together but me. So I'm trying to stop that from happening to you. And she's like, no offense, loser, but not all of us fall in love with someone that doesn't love us back. No, she doesn't say that. Imagine. But she's like, look, I'm gonna catch my flight now because you've tried to talk me out of every boyfriend I've had since we met. Yeah, Reed, that is a little bit strange. And so she goes to board the plane, and Reed has to go back and get his shoes. And instead of getting arrested or in actual trouble, the security guard tells him off for running through the airport in his socks because the ground is dirty. I mean, sure, the ground at an airport would be dirty, but like, isn't that like kind of the least of your problems when you have a code Foxtrot? Anyway, the universe and the spider web of the Valentine's Day movie grows stronger because we go to Edison, who is at soccer practice after school, who is devastated, by the way, that his flowers didn't get delivered to school in time. So he's in a bit of a Suki Lala mood. And also, to add to the connectionification of it all, Grace of trying to have thanks today, Grace. Yeah, she's his babysitter. So he's at soccer practice after school, and he's warming up with his gal pal bestie, Rainey. And they're just chatting about their days. He's like, are you going to go watch the giraffe show on the blah, blah, blah? And that's exactly how I heard it. And she was like, no, I have to help out at my mum's stront because we have a big wedding party and some weirdos that have an I hate Valentine's Day party. The universe is growing stronger with every passing scene, I tell ya. Anyway, whilst Calvin is boots on the ground on the dirty streets of LA, and I mean literally dirty. LA is dirty. Sorry, he gets a text. He got a text that Sean Jackson, with his epiphany, he's going to give a press conference, baby, and so he has to go. He has to get out of there to get to the press conference. So his number 2, which is his cameraman, Greg Gilkins, alliteration, I see you, has to step up and take over the Valentine's Day interviewing B-roll because Calvin's got bigger fish to fry, and he for some reason knows Crazy Cara. As I said, Cara is in her biggest flop day of the year, and Calvin walks in on an absolute PR nightmare. She needs to publicist herself for the fact that she can't cope with Valentine's Day, because she's literally having a meltdown in a pool of candy and chocolate. And he's like, maybe you should eat some tofu to regulate your emotions. She is having a meltdown. But they kind of bond over the fact that they both don't like Valentine's Day. Like there's a little something going on there, a little something more than her having a meltdown and him wanting to be there because she's Sean Jackson's publicist. So do with that information what you will. We then finally get the most iconic, and I would say probably the most referenced scene of this whole movie. 5, 6, 7, 8.
I think we're okay. We seen that one.
Do you get the reference? Because Greg Gilkins goes to the local high school to interview Felicia and Willie about young love. And of course, Felicia tells us all about how they met. Because you see, it's really funny actually, because I wasn't into him at first.
He used to shoot spit wads at me in Spanish class.
Which is so junior high. But then one night, I was brushing my hair out when I got home.
And I found this spit wad, but it was really a note.
And it said, "What's up?"
And I was like, that is so cute.
And then I liked him. That's how true love truly happened in 2010. But anyway, as I said earlier, Edison's flowers did not arrive for him to confess his love to his crush, whom we still don't know who that is, by the way. He's devastated about it. Grace brings him back home to the icons, the legends that are his grandparents. He runs off in a hoof. And because Grace seems to have no filter and just says whatever is on her mind, she tells Estelle and Edgar about her big plans to have sex today and how it didn't happen, and how she's like, maybe we were just forcing it and maybe it wasn't a good idea. Who has sex with one person for the rest of their life anyway? And this is when I get mad, because I don't like this next series of events, which is that Estelle confesses to Edgar that actually he's not the only man that she's ever slept with, because whilst Edgar, the icon, the legend himself, was away, she had an affair. And so this man has been walking around in love with her, thinking that they were their first and only love of each other's lives. And you did this for what, Estelle? Anyway, the important thing to know in the chaos of all of this news being broken, Edison uses it as an opportunity to escape, to go to the florist shop to get the roses that he sort of paid for. I feel like the plane scenes are honestly a bit of a palate cleanser, because we then just have a cute little scene with Captain Kate and Wilson, or Holden, whomstever, because Kate has picked up on, she is astute, she is in the military, if you did not know. She picked up on the fact that he does not like Valentine's Day. He pushes away the Valentine's Day candy that the air hostess gives them. So I guess you could say that she is a very clever detective, and he's like, very coy. He kind of confirms in a sort of unagi type of way that, yeah, I don't like Valentine's Day. But why? Well, don't worry, we'll find out later. So next we have a very heartbreaking scene, because Julia did not catch the flight. She lied. And she actually went to the hospital that Dr. Copeland works at and asked one of the nurses, hey, is he working today? And they're like, not today. No, sorry, not today. Not today. Not today. Not today. Come tomorrow, it'll be so yesterday, so yesterday. I've been talking for too long and I've gone crazy. Anyway, Julia tries to level with the nurse. She's like, can I please just ask you, woman to woman, is Dr. Copeland married? Not separated, not divorced, married. And she looks at the nurse behind her, who is an icon, by the way, and she's like, they actually just celebrated their 15th anniversary. Don't know if that's their wedding or together, but either way, diabolical. 15! Unbelievable. As I said, the icon nurse behind the nurse that Julia is talking to comes up to Julia and whispers to her a very important piece of information. Bistro garden. Early seating. Exactly. So like I said, Alfonso inspired Sean to have the clarity that he needed to give this press conference. And the TLDR of it all is he's gay.
I'm gay.
I knew it.
And he's been hiding it his whole career. And he doesn't want to hide it no more. Everyone in the crowd is shocked. Like, no one really knows what to say. So I don't even think he told Kara. They're all just like, okay. Kara tries to take a question. Whose question does she take? Whose question does she take? All together now, Calvin's, of course. From blah, blah, blah network, whatever bunch of letters I'm too dyslexic to remember. And he's like, wait, so does that mean you're retiring? And he's like, oh, no. I'm gay and I'm going to play. It's so random, but I get that probably back in 2010 that would have been more shocking. I'm not in tune enough with American football to know how shocking this is or is not. So maybe let me know in the comments. Any slay. Julia arrives at the Garden Bistro for the early seating and pretends to be the Copeland's waitress to tell them the specials.
Good evening.
Although I'm not sure that she read the menu because the special that she describes is kind of strange. Lying, squealing pig, cutting off testicles. I don't know. There was feta cheese involved.
He takes those testicles and he pulverizes them and adds in a little arugula, some sage, feta cheese.
But I'm starting to wonder if this is really the specials dish or if she's trying to give some sort of subtle message to Mr. Dr. Copeland. Dr. Copeland's like, and she's like, well, maybe I'll come back when you've decided. But obviously she's not coming back. She just had a mic drop moment. And guess who owns the Garden Bistro, guys? Franklin, the out-of-pocket kid's parents. The web this movie weaves. Obviously, this parent is an icon. They raised an out-of-pocket child, so they must be. So they put a bunch of yummy, expensive food on their tab. It's the least that Dr. Copeland could do, to be honest. Anyway, we go back to our palate cleansers. Captain Kate and Holden or Wilson. I believe it's Holden. Gives Kate his car so that she can get to her loved one as soon as possible because the taxi line is out the wazoo and it's crazy. It's LA. Lines are pumping. Everyone's got somewhere to go. So Holden, aka Bradley Cooper's like, take my car, go spend as much time with that loved one that you can. So that was very kind of him, very slay. We like this energy. It's a nice wholesome palate cleanser. Now back to the chaos. Because you see, obviously Liz could not hide her side hustle from Topher Jason, for even one day. Girly Pop answers one of these calls on their dinner date. They're in this really bizarre, like long table with couples squished in together. I really hope that that's not what happens on Valentine's Day. Has anyone been in such a setup? I don't know. But her do-do-do-do-do. That was Devil Wears Prada. My apologies. She gets a call. She goes off outside. She's like, oh my God, so sorry. I got to take this. And he thinks it's a work call because of course he does. She goes off to take the call, but obviously because it's a call, it's not going to be over in a couple of minutes. And he goes out to find her and literally hears her wrap up the call, if you know what I mean.
I'm going to have a mint julep to cool down after that one.
At first he thinks she's cheating on him. But then when she explains, he's like, no, because at the end of the day, it's not funny. It's serious and that's too much for me. I'm from Muncie, Indiana, whatever that means. He can't cope. He's like, I gotta go my own way. And he leaves. I'm not sure what the appropriate response in that situation is, to be honest. This leads Jason and Edgar's path to collide because these men are both down bad, crying in the cemetery, and they're going to some Valentine's Day cemetery movie showing. Edgar wanted to buy a ticket, but they were all sold out. But obviously Jason now has an extra ticket, so they go in together. Like I said, this movie likes to impart wisdom on these random strangers meeting each other. So that is what this is really setting us up for, but they're also bonding over the fact that they thought they had a really cool gal and then they found something out about them that they don't like. Kind of different things, but you know, they're still bonding over it. Anyway, because Reed always seems to end up back at his flower shop, Edison arrives and he's still there and he's just like, you Oh, me. Flowers. I should have explained he bicycled the whole way there, so he's a child and pretty puffed about it. So Reed is like, fine, I will drive you to where you need to go because you are a child and you should not be cycle-bicycling around Los Angeles at night. We then have Kara all alone at her hateritis Valentine's Day party. But of course, after what has happened with Julia and Dr. Copeland, you bet your sweetest of cheeks she's going to be there. And Julia shows up ready to swing, I think it's a baseball bat, at this giant heart-shaped piñata. And all she says is,
He's married.
and smacks the crap, respectfully, out of that piñata, and candy flies everywhere because that's how a piñata works. Everyone starts arriving to the party, so it's great news, it's great optics for Kara. Her day's finally turning around, and guess who else shows up? Calvin as Kara's date. Yes, the rumors are true. He introduces himself to Julia as Kara's date. Screaming, crying, throwing up. Even though they did literally nothing to develop the chemistry, I accept the ship blindly, so I will not hear a criticism about it. Anyway, we cut back to Jason and Edgar in the cemetery watching the movie, which turns out to be a movie that Estelle, Edgar's wife, was in. And Estelle is yelling out, Edgar, Edgar, and then everyone's like, who the is Edgar, because it's ruining the movie. We have this big climax where they meet each other, and honestly, I don't particularly like the speech that Estelle gives, because she's like, you're gonna forgive me anyway because that's what you do when you love someone, even the parts that you don't like. An affair is a bit different, but sure, go off, I guess. But like I said, epiphanies. This gives Jason his much needed epiphany about Liz. And that's the epiphany. If you love someone, you love all of them. So with his epiphany, off he goes with purpose and epiphany. We then have Edison, Reed, and Grace all arrive at Rainey's parents' strand, because obviously Reed is there to drop off Edison to deliver his flowers, and Grace has been running around Los Angeles trying to find Edison because he literally ran away. And I feel like it's a big old just like glazed over the fact that Estelle and Edgar just don't seem to care that Edison ran away. I get that they're swooped up in their own problems, but this kid is running amok all over LA. And the only person that seems to care is Grace. So anyway, Edison goes and takes his flowers into the strand, but he gives it to Julia. Julia handles it very well. I mean, it's Jennifer Garner. That's a classy lady right there. And she really helps him to find a better perspective on it. It's a little bit Kylie Jenner realizing stuff and things about it. She does make him realize that Rainey, his soccer bestie gal pal that also loves giraffes, is his true Valentine. And you want to pick a Valentine that is who you truly like and who you truly bond with. And so it makes Edison realize that his true Valentine / crush is Rainey, but also because we are Kylie Jenner realizing stuff and things,
And everyone around me were all just like realizing things.
it makes Julia realize that she's actually in love with Reed. I can't believe it. Anyway, because obviously everyone in this movie is connected, Alex, Grace's boyfriend, is a delivery driver for Rainey's parents' strand. Grace and him run into each other, and Grace is like, can I be honest with you? And he's like, I love it when you're honest with me. And she's like, I think we should wait. And he's like, lie to me. That was funny. I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled. They agree that it's not something you force, it's not something you rush. You just gotta let it happen naturally, you know? Live, laugh, love, we can still kiss on the mouth. So they kiss on the mouth to Today Was a Fairy Tale by Taylor Swift, which so swiftly cuts to Taylor and Taylor, aka Felicia and Willie, in Felicia's apartment elevator. That was a lot of words. And he is escorting her back to her house after their Valentine's Day dates, and they kiss goodbye. And Today Is a Fairy Tale is still playing, and it's so wholesome and cute. I wonder if this movie was made now, if it would be like So High School, but it definitely feels like the younger version of So High School. We're getting into the wrapping up of it all, people. Wrapping it up, folks. We're tying everything off with a nice cutesy little pink or red bow. Now this next bit was a little bit of a plot twist to me when I originally watched this movie, but I think it's just because we didn't really get to see much of Holden and his story. We just didn't get enough of them. If you ask for my advice, my opinion, yeah, I'd probably delete Grace and Alex's story and amp up Captain Kate and Holden on the plane. But what do I know? We find out that Sean Jackson, the NFL player who is gay and will play, his love interest in the movie is Bradley Cooper's Wilson Wilson. And Holden arrives to Sean Jackson's house with a flower. Wholesome. Cutesy. Love to see it. But honestly, I'm just glad that I'm not hating Bradley Cooper. If you watched He's Just Not That Into You, you will know the besties that know. As I said, everything is being tidied up at the movie now. So we have Jason arriving to Liz's apartment where Liz is like, I'm sorry how you found out, but that's kind of it. And he's like, no, you're right. You should be able to do what you want. And he makes her this very adorable card with all of their Polaroids in it and gives it to her. And it says, I'm sorry. They kiss, they make up. You love to see it. You love to see it. Very nice, very cutesy. We then have Cara returning the favor to Calvin, who showed up to her party. She shows up to his final broadcast of the evening where he's talking about the Sean Jackson tea because he's now reporting the sports. Everyone's like, slay, Calvin, hooray. Him and Cara start flirting. It's very cutesy. Like I said, I will not have a bad word said about this ship. I love it for them. And my favorite part is that they kiss in front of the green screen, and so the producers / editors change the green screen so that it has a cute romantic sunset behind them while they're kissing. Another surprise is that Captain Kate isn't actually coming back to see a romantic loved one, but she is in fact Edison's mum. So that means that Edison's full name is Edison Hazeltine. What? Anyway, it's very cute. We love to see it. Obviously, the grandparents do not mutter a word about the fact that they lost him and the babysitter was chasing him all around LA. They're reunited after 11 months. If you didn't remember, it's been a while. And then we finally have Julia and Reed. Julia finds Reed on the bridge that's near his house, throwing in all the unwanted roses into the canal so that people in the morning can see a canal full of roses, and it's very magical, mysterical. I didn't know there were canals in LA. You learn something new every day. We basically have Reed talking about how he would always do different things with these flowers. Sometimes he would make up a bouquet with all the unwanted flowers and leave it at someone's doorstep. But then he was like, but then I wondered, like, would someone really want me to love them? And Julia's like, I would. She really put that out there, like hours after absolutely embarrassing Dr. Copeland. But we love to see it because he's like, are we really about to kiss? Like, is this really about to happen? First kiss, no sparks flying. Absolutely zilch nada. But obviously we can't leave it on the awkwardness. So they kiss again. The music starts swooning. Romeo Midnight comes back in to narrate out the end of the movie, talking about how that's it for Valentine's Day. The day is finishing and the movie is over, and we close the movie to Today Was a Fairy Tale with credits and bloopers because you love to see it. So that is the movie Valentine's Day. Is it as good as Love Actually? Objectively, no. But in my vibes and feelings, yes. Like, I still feel the feels watching this movie. There's a lot going on. It's hard to keep up. Sometimes you wish they got rid of some of the storylines, but I feel like you feel that way in Love Actually as well. Regardless if they were really trying to steal Love Actually's nachos, they definitely encompass the vibes, and I think that's just because the people making the movies are experts in rom-com rom-com, feel-good feelings, things like that. Whether or not they executed the story the best, literally who cares? It's a cutesy movie. And I enjoyed watching it twice so that I could talk about it with you guys. I mean, I've definitely watched it more than twice. We owned it on DVD, but I obviously rewatched it twice so that we could talk about it today. But yes, I would love to know your thoughts on this movie. Did you watch it when you were younger? Have you ever watched it? Will you watch it now? Could you keep up with all the stories? Honestly, that is the most chaotic part about these videos, is trying to concisely and clearly tell all the stories, because they seriously intersect so much and go back and forth so quickly that it's like, how do I make this make sense? I don't know. I don't know if I did. Sorry if I didn't. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video nonetheless. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoyed this silly video. If you did, leave a like and obviously comment and let me know your thoughts and opinions. Always love to hear them. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stay till the end, you are a real one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to keep up with me between my uploads, I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and I'll link my vlog channel down below. I'm in my weekly vlogging era. YouTube should also be recommending another one of my videos on the screen right now, but don't you worry guys, because I'm not funny there either. Bye!
Young love, full of promise, full of hope, ignorant of reality. From Henderson High on Valentine's Day, I'm Greg Gilkins, Channel 13.